that we had started yesterday. Um, Yesterday, we had started with the coordination and control, and the first subtopic of this topic was mammalian nervous system. As we know, that nervous system is basically the organ system which basically deals with the coordinations of different organ with the coordinator, that is the central nervous system, that is brain and spinal cord, who are the managers, who are the coordinators, who give instructions to different organs and different cells and tissues, what should they do in different circumstances, and everything is basically instructed by them. So as we know that mammalian nervous system is of two types, right? One is the central nervous system and second is the peripheral nervous system. They are the two parts of nervous system. I should not say types, parts of nervous system, um, where the central nervous system includes the brain and spinal cord, and peripheral nervous system includes the nerves. Outside this brain and spinal cord, whatever the nerves, which are the organs which contains all the neurons in them, they are the peripheral nervous system. Then we discuss certain terms like receptors, effectors, stimulus. We describe that receptors are those specialized cells which basically detects a stimulus, and stimulus is actually the change in the environment, either the internal or external. Then we discuss what are effectors. So just like I gave you an example, that receptors are just like the input devices, so the effectors are the output devices of our body, and they are those parts, usually the muscles and glands, which basically responds towards a particular stimulus. Yes, why not? Then we discuss first initially the structure of a particular neuron, that how it is adapted for its function. This is a typical neuron, and this neuron has different type of structures present in it, including dendroid, cell body, a long axon body, a myelin sheath, and the nerve ending, which is also called axon terminal. And these are some of the structural adaptations that we discussed yesterday, that they have many mitochondria, because in order to transfer the nerve impulse, the function of the neuron is to transfer the nerve impulse, which is in the form of electrical current or electrical impulse, right? So this requires energy, and this energy is basically produced by the mitochondria, which is a powerhouse. And then they have a long extension, cell extension, this axon, which basically helps to transfer the nerve impulse across the long distance. And they have the myelin sheath, right, which insulates the axon. Now there are the three type of axon that we had discussed yesterday, and all three of them, one of them is the sensory neuron, as you can see the diagram. The second is the motor neuron, and third is the relay neuron. Now the differences which I discuss with you, that these, you can see, if you can see the screen, that sensory neuron, it has a centered, right? This is the sensory neuron, and this sensory neuron, it has a centered cell body, right? While cell body in motor and relay, although the relay neuron also has a center cell body, right, but the motor neuron has a cell body on its one end. The motor neuron has a very long axon, while the sensory neuron has a very long dendritic end as compared to the axon end, right? There are the two ends. A neuron has a dendritic end and an axon terminal, right? So the dendritic end is very long in sensory neuron as compared to the motor neuron. And because motor neuron has very short dendroids and it has a long axon, while the relay neuron, it has both axon and dendritic ends, both are not very short and not very long, right? And as you did, this relay neuron is quite distinguished. Whenever you see a neuron like this way, a cell body with lots of branches, you can understand that this is a relay neuron, and relay neurons are only found inside the brain and spinal cord, while these motor and sensory neuron, these are the neurons which are found outside the CNS, that is, they are found in the nerves. Their axons are, or the dendritic ends, they are found in the nerves. Sensory neuron, the function of sensory neuron is basically to take the nerve impulse from receptor to the CNS, right? From receptor to CNS, sensory neuron takes the nerve impulse. Relay neuron is that, why it is called relay neuron, because this neuron relays the message from the sensory neuron to the motor neuron. This is a neuron which is between the two neurons. That is, relay neuron is between the two neurons, sensory and motor. That's why it's called relay. If you have ever played in a relay race, in what happens in a relay race, one person runs and have something in his hand, then he pass it to the middle person, then he runs and pass it to the person who ends the race, who runs and then ends the race. So same as the relay neuron is the one who basically relays the message which is coming from the sensory neuron to the motor neuron. And relay neuron is actually that uh, neuron which is found in the CNS, right? So the instructions that are forwarded or the transferred by the brain and spinal cord, this is someone that forwards it to the motor neuron. Now the motor neuron basically takes the information or the nerve impulse from the relay neuron and forward it to the effectors, which can be muscles or glands, right? So if the effectors are muscle, the muscle will either be contracted or relaxed, or if they are glands, they start to secrete any hormones, right? Then we also discussed that there is always the nerve impulse always unidirectional. If there is a transfer of nerve impulse is always unidirectional, that is, it is always in one direction, that is from dendroids to the axon. It is never axon to the dendroids, it's never. Because there is, why it is never, because this is what we are going to study today, that the structure of the axon terminal and dendritic terminal, dendritic and is in a way that it does not let it to flow in backward direction, right? So there is always the direction from dendroid to sensory neurons. They are the nerve cells. Well, those students who were not present in the class, they are required to please see the lecture, watch the lecture of yesterday that I shared yesterday, so that they may have an idea about those terms which we had discussed. uh, Now the motor neuron, right? So as we, you can see that the direction is from the dendroids to the axon. And in motor neuron, same, the dendroids to the axon and relay. Here these are the dendroids and these are the axon, right? And then we discussed that what is the reflex arc or the reflex action. Reflex actions are those actions which are actually involuntary actions, which are pre-programmed, and usually they are instructed by the spinal cord, is usually responsible for giving the instructions what to do in those cases. For example, if your hand touches any hot object, or any you are, your hand or your finger is pricked, or your foot is pricked with a sharp needle, then you instantly withdraw your foot or your hand from that object. Now this withdrawing of hand is actually the response, which is the reflex action, and this is program. So the pathway through which the nerve impulse flows, the transfers from receptors till effectors, this is called the reflex arc, right? So when the receptors, they detect the stimulus, right? Receptors are those specialized cells which are found in every part of your body, right? For example, there are some receptor cells in your hands, right? So if your hand pricked with a needle, they they basically uh, they forward they forward this nerve impulse. They basically they are stimulated with the pain, right? So the stimulus was pain, pricking, right? This, the receptor cells are stimulated with those, they are triggered with those pricking or the pain. Now, this receptors, from the receptor sensory neurons are joined. So these sensory neurons basically takes the information to the central nervous system, which is here in the spinal cord. Usually the reflex action, they are basically, they deal with the reflex action are dealt by the spinal cord. So what happens that the sensory neuron is taking the information to the spinal cord. Here they are the relay neurons in between them. Then these relay neurons are doing what, they are giving the instructions to the motor neuron. This motor neuron is bringing the information to the effectors, which are the muscles in the arm. And as soon as the instruction is basically received from the spinal cord, these muscles contract and you lift up your hand, right? So as soon as you prick your hand, you lift it up. So this lifting up, actually there is a series of event receptors to sensory neuron to CNS, which is a relay neurons are there, then to the motor neurons, and then to the effectors. So you must be able to identify what are the effectors, what are the receptors. Yes, we are going to discuss neurotransmitter and everything today, right? So don't worry about it. When a receptor detects, now this is the reflex arc. This is so far for the last 10 minutes I'm giving the recap, right? So this is simply the recap of the reflex arc. Now let's start. Right, this is happening when your foot, basically when you prick, there is a nail that is pricked here on your foot, and the receptors, basically receptor cells are stimulated. Now the message is basically sent to the spinal cord with the help of this purple is the sensory neuron. Then sensory neuron, this is the cell body, as you can see that the cell body basically make you able to recognize that this is the sensory neuron because it is in the middle. Now this sensory neuron is bringing the nerve impulse to the relay neuron, which is present in the spinal cord, which is orange in color. And then the spinal cord is basically instructing the motor neuron to send the message to the muscles of your foot or your leg to contract, the muscles to contract so that the left may be pulled up, lifted up, right? So the green one is the motor neuron, and as you can see that this motor neuron, they have a very short dendritic and a long axon, right? So today what we are going to discuss that how that two neurons are connected with each other, right? No, brain are involved in reflex arts. Some of the, for example, the blinking of eyes, the closure of the eyelids, brain is involved there. It's not the case. I did not say that every reflex section involves a spinal cord, right? But yes, most of the reflex section are basically coordinated by a spinal cord rather than brain. But mostly reflex section related to your head part, they are coordinated by brain. So why there is a need, actually there is a logic perhaps that perhaps the eye, your eye through which you can see the things, right? This is nearer to your brain, so there is a less distance. So that's why brain here is the coordinator, and your arms and your legs, they are more close to your spinal cord. So that's why the spinal cord is the coordinator, because at that time we the body has to respond very quickly in order to avoid any damage that may have caused by that stimulus, right? So that's why perhaps. Now today what we have to discuss that synapse. Now what is synapse, right? And first of all you must know that how the two neurons, they are connected with each other. For example, if I'm saying that sensory neuron is bringing the nerve impulse to the relay neuron, and then relay neuron is forwarding it to the motor neuron, then it means that there is a connection between these two neurons. Is basically, this is what we have to study. So there is a junction between the two neuron, as you can see in this diagram. If you can closely see this diagram, then there is a space between the two neurons. They are not stick to each other, they are not binded with each other. There is a gap between these two neurons. So the gap and the two neurons itself, right? This is basically called synapses, right? Or the synapse, the end of the two neurons on either side of the gaps, and the gap itself, this gap and the ends of the two neuron, this end and this gap, this is called synapse. Synapse means it is also called a synaptic junction as well. Do you know what do we mean by junction? Junction is a place where two things meet. So this is the place where the two neurons are meeting. Now we are going to discuss first what are the structures that are involved. Now I have pasted two different diagram, same type of diagram from two different sources, and we can see that they're the two neuron. This is vertical and this is horizontal, so you can understand. Now this, the first neuron which is there with the first neuron, this neuron, you could say that this neuron, right? This is called the presynaptic neuron. Means a neuron that is before the synapses. So this is called the presynaptic neuron, right? Presynaptic neuron. And this neuron, right, this is called the postsynaptic neuron. Postsynaptic neuron. For example, if the direction of the nerve impulse from here to here, so the destination, the neuron which is getting the impulse is called the postsynaptic neuron, and the neuron which is basically forwarding or transferring the nerve impulse, this is called the presynaptic neuron, right? So this is the pre and this is the post, right? Now this presynaptic neuron is always the axon terminal. This is what you should always remember, that this is always the axon terminal, and the postsynaptic neuron is always the dendritic terminal. So this is the dendroid and this is the axon, right? So if we can see this diagram closely, right? So here at this place, there is a synapse, right? So this is the axon, right? This is the, sorry, this is the dendritic terminal and this is the sorry, I think the motor neuron was green. Yes, this is the axon terminal, right, of the sensory neuron, and this here is the dendritic terminal of the relay neuron. So axon to dendroid, then when the relay neuron is connecting with the motor neuron, this end is the axon, right, and this end is the dendritic terminal. So and axon to dendroids, nerve impulse is transferred. There is the one direction only. The direction is never dendroid to axon. Why is that so? This is what we are about to discuss. Now, as you can see some of the structures here, we can see some vesicles here. These are called neurotransmitter vesicles. Now neurotransmitters are basically the chemicals, right, and they are found only at the axon terminal. These vesicles, they are only found at the axon terminal only, right? And these vesicles have neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are, you could say that they are chemical compound. They are those chemicals basically which actually triggers the flow of the nerve impulse from presynaptic neuron to the postsynaptic neuron. So what happens that when the nerve impulse reaches at the axon terminal, these vesicles, they start to fuse with the cell membrane, with the membrane of the axon terminal of the presynaptic neuron, and when they fuse, they release this neurotransmitter in this gap. Now this is the gap, right, and this gap here, these neurotransmitters are released because they were fused, these vesicles were fused with that, these neurotransmitters were released. Now at this site, this axon terminal, you can see some mitochondria as well. The presence of the mitochondria is quite essential because the releasing of neurotransmitter from the axon terminal, this requires energy. So that's why nerve impulse transfer requires energy, because the reason behind why it requires energy is that the releasing of neurotransmitter, it requires energy, right? So if mitochondria do not work, if there is no oxygen, if there is no glucose, no energy, no neurotransmitter release, so no nerve impulse would be transferred. So this is going to be the consequence. Now at this postsynaptic neuron, as you can see in another diagram, right, there are some receptor proteins here. Now these proteins are specialized proteins which are found at the cell membrane of this dendritic end of the another neuron, and these, they have a shape which is complementary to the shape of neurotransmitter. Now if you people, uh, if you, which compound trigger what, would you please repeat your question in detail so that I may understand what do you mean by saying which compound trigger, right? uh, so when They, if you remember, the enzyme and substrate bonding, they were complementary to each other. Now what is being complementary? Complementary is that something, when two things, they may exactly fit with each other. So if I say that something is complementary, it means that that shape that may be fit into here, right? For example, if this is the structure and the another one has the structure like this, they cannot fit with each other, they are the same shapes. So in puzzles, if you remember, you must have solved puzzles, right, in your life. So what happens in the puzzle, right? In your puzzle, the puzzle is like that. Now for in order to have a perfect fit, there the another puzzle must have this kind of shape, right? Now this shape basically is complementary to this shape. Both of the shapes are different, they are opposite of each other. Now this is being the complementary shape, that both are complementary to each other. So here what happens that these neurotransmitters, they have a complementary shape with these carrier proteins. So if these carrier proteins, so these neurotransmitters diffuse into this gap, synaptic gap, and they get binded with this receptor. Binding with these receptor proteins basically makes the way of the electrical uh, impulse to flow. It's just like a switch now. Whenever you make an electric circuit, so there is a need of joining the two parts, but for two wires, if they are not connected, the electric current won't flow. So you could say that this is act like a switch, right? When the neurotransmitter will bind, so the electrical impulse from the presynaptic neuron will flow to the postsynaptic neuron. But if these neurotransmitters are somehow blocked, or they are somehow not produced, the electrical impulse or the nerve impulse from the presynaptic neuron to the postsynaptic, it will not flow, right? So let's discuss that how a question that has been there in your exam, in which they basically let you know that what happens when we take medicines, when we take painkillers, what happens? We are feeling pain, and then we take panadol or any medicine that is a painkiller, and after some times our pain diminish. And why it does faint? It's because the drug that you have just taken, your painkiller, is has the same complementary shape like the neurotransmitter. So the pain receptors were receiving the pain. For example, you have a wound on your skin and you're feeling pain on your skin. Now the pain receptors which are found in your skin, we will be discussing the structure of a skin in this chapter as well, that there are receptors which basically sends the pain as well, right? They basically send the impulse to the brain, right? And it basically receives the instruction, and then you receive the pain. Now let's say that if the impulse of sending the pain impulse, if it is blocked, right, then it is not sent to the brain, then you will not feel the pain, right? So the if the you could say the way of sending the pain impulse is blocked. And how it is blocked? With the drugs that you take in, that the painkillers that you take in, even those drugs which are addictive drug, they are also, for example, that cocaine and those opium, like these nicotine even. So these are the drugs that basically they have a same complementary shape like these carrier proteins, and they binds with these carrier proteins, due to which your nerve impulse doesn't basically transfer in that speed which it should. For example, if out of 10, 7 of the carrier proteins, they have been blocked by the uh, addictive drugs, then that's why your nerve impulse will be transferring slowly, because 3 are only free, and those 3 will be forwarding the nerve impulse. So that's why those people who use drug, they have their reaction time increases. Alcohol it also does the same thing, that due to use of the alcohol and other addictive drugs, your reaction time increases. Now what is a reaction time? Reaction time is something that whenever your body receives an stimulus, how long do you take to respond to it, right? Normally a person respond very quickly, but those people who takes the addictive drugs, during taking those addictive drugs like nicotine, like cocaine, like opium, or these kind of drugs, they basically, or even some of the drugs that are prescribed by the doctors for the pain reliefs, or like that, they basically block your receptor proteins, due to which your nerve impulses start to transfer slowly. And because of that slow transfer of the nerve impulse, your brain responds slowly, because the message is being received by the brain slowly, and the message is sent slowly by the brain, because the receptor proteins are blocked, the nerve impulse is not flowing in a way it should be, the speed is quite slow. So that's why the reaction time increases and the person responds late. And same happens in the old age, with the increasing age, with the aging, the people start to have less release of neurotransmitter. Now they are not taking the drugs, right? Old people do not take the drugs, but their reaction time increases. When you ask them to remove your hand, it takes time for them to remove the hand. The reason is, number one, the energy which is being produced in their body, the mitochondria working as well. Second is the amount of the neurotransmitter that is released in them. So it declines, or it starts to declines in the old age. That's why the reaction time of old people uh, increases. Antidepressant work, actually, basically antidepressants are those medicines. There are some patients whose nerves are damaged, they do strange XY. No, actually that is something different that you people are discussing, that their nerves are damaged. When their nerves are damaged, the message is not sent to the brain or your spinal cord. The message, the damaging nerve doesn't do that, but actually the chemicals that are produced, the neurotransmitters that are being produced during the depression, what happens, that those chemicals which are harmful, which are actually block the way of this transmittance of the nerve impulse, they start to produce in your body. They are the natural blocker, right? So that's why you have those actions by those people. Regarding antidepressant is basically they are the medicine you are talking about, those drugs, that they drugs basically, they are addictive drugs as well. So they basically block the way, they first of all they want the person to have minimum activity, right? Because the activity is increasing the release of those hormones, those chemicals in your body, which are actually creating the malfunctioning. So antidepressant, first of all, they relax your muscles, right? They relax your muscle, they are sedative as well. And the sedative means that the people start to sleep more as well. So when they are sleeping, they basically there is a cleaning of those toxic, I should not say toxic, but those harmful materials from your body. So there is a cleaning as well. So that's why you start to feel rejuvenate after taking the antidepressant, right? So depression means that your nerves impulse is being affected, the way of the nerve impulse has been affected. It's not working in that speed, it's not working in a way, there is something wrong with the production of the neurotransmitter, or either there is a malfunctioning of the relay neurons as well, who are basically transferring the message to the effectors as well. So there actually, our body is quite complex, there are many things which we feel that they do work directly, but actually they are involved in many places, in many regions. They work in coordination. So if one thing, there is a problem with one thing, right, that will cause another thing to malfunction as well. So this is how, but at this level what you need to understand, that this is the way, because sometimes they ask you to write down the events, And even there is a question that has been there in your CIE, that they have discussed this synaptic junction, and they say that there is a drug that has the same shape as neurotransmitter, uh, suggests what would happen if the person start to take these drugs. So you would say that since it has the same shape with the neurotransmitter, so that's why it will bind with the with the receptor proteins, and it will block the way. Because if something binds with the receptor, until and unless it is not neurotransmitter, the nerve impulse won't flow, right? This is what you need to remember. It's not like that if any drug is binded to the receptor protein, the nerve impulse would be flowing, until and unless it's not blocking, until and unless that drug is exactly the type of the neurotransmitter which our body produces or not, right? So if it is blocked, the reaction time will slow down, the nerve impulse will slow. Now what happens that whenever the nerve impulse is forwarded, now this is structure, as I told you, that this is structure, number of neurons change. Yes, of course, they have a life, they have a life cycle. And definitely it's not like that the neuron that you had when you were born are working till date. Obviously there are wears and tears as well, but obviously this is not that much division. But yes, there is, as they have nucleus and as they have DNA, so they divide as well. These nerve cells divide as well. Now listen, the thing that I wanted to tell you, that what happens when these neurotransmitters they are released. So the nerve, as you can see the structure, this is structure basically tells you that why nerve impulse flow in one direction. Because yes, this a question that has been there in your exam, that explain why nerve impulse flow in or transfer in only one direction. The reason behind is that the neurotransmitter vesicles are only found at axon terminal, they are not found at dendritic terminal. So they are only found at this terminal, so that's why from this terminal they will be releasing. And these receptor proteins are always found on the dendritic terminal, they are not found at the axon terminal. So that's why these neurotransmitter, these neurotransmitter cannot release from here, that is the postsynaptic neuron, and these carrier proteins are not present here, so the neurotransmitter can bind with them, right? And as soon as the nerve impulse basically transferred, these neurotransmitter comes back, or sometimes they are you could say they are recycled as well. How they are recycled, they are go back to into the cell, they are diffused again into the axon terminal, right? So this happened during a synaptic gap. Now the next thing that we have to, so this is all with the nervous system. This is all with the nervous system that, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so we have done reflex section, we have done with the synapse, we have also done with the structure of the synaptic gap and the events at the synapse, that the impulse stimulate the release of neurotransmitter, they diffuse in the gap and binds with the receptor protein, and then impulse is stimulated. And we have also discussed that how synapse ensure the impulse travel in one direction. Now let's, the next thing that we have to do are the sense organ, which is the next part of our basically syllabus, right? Now as we know that what are the sense organ, now these sense organs are those organs that have a specific sensory receptors, right? And they basically sense the stimulations in their environment. How many sense organs do we have? May I know the sense organs that we have? Okay, and those organs are, we have five senses, yes. So do we have five sense organs which are associated with those sense organs? Yes, one of them is eye, another is ear, yes, one is nose, three, fourth is tongue, and yes, Then we have skin. Exactly, then we have skin. Now skin is basically associated with the feeling of touch, right? That we feel the touch. And then we have our tongue is associated with the feeling, the sensing, the taste of something that we eat, right? Our ears basically they sense with the sound, right? We can listen the sound. Then we have the, yes, hearing and sound they are associated with. Then eyes are the sense organ for the sense of sight, in which we basically are able to see. We are able to see because we have those receptor cells which actually sense the light around us, and they make us able to see the world, right? And then we have nose. We have those receptors which can basically sense the smell, right? So we have incense organs we have done because they have skin also has the sensory. We will be discussing structure of a skin, that it has the receptors not only for the touch but also for the temperature as well, for the pressure as well, right? But in detail what we have to discuss is the eye. Human eye we have to discuss. First of all we need to discuss its whole parts, the structure, internal structure of an eye, right? With the structure, then their functions, right? Then we have to study basically how pupil reflex happens, that what happens when there is a reflex of bright light and dim light, what happens to our eye, and then how our eye accommodates whenever we have to see something from near and whenever we have to see something from far, right? So for that, these are the syllabus learning outcomes for the sense organs, right? Okay, and let me now paste those the structure of internal structure of an eye, which you have to basically uh, identify, and you should remember that what are the types, because sometimes they give you a table and ask you, they give you the function and then they ask you that which part is responsible for which function, right? Sometimes they label with the parts with a b c d e, and then they want you to write down their function, right? So this is something that you should remember. All right. Their functions, right? This is something that you would have to remember. Now, I will be only discussing those structures which are there in our syllabus. So, this is, uh, as you can see, that this is if you take the horizontal section of the eye, right? This is the horizontal section of the eye, and they have shown you that how this section has been taken. Eyeball is there, right? If your eye is there, now it has been cut like this, right? And this is how it is presented. Uh, so let's start from here. Okay, this part is basically, this part is the conjunctiva, right? Conjunctiva is actually not there in your syllabus, but it's something that protects, it's a layer that protects your eye. It's like the lamination that basically protects your eye. Then comes the cornea, right? The cornea is again very important part of the eye, and it has a function of focusing the light that we will be discussing when we will be discussing the functions. Then we have a liquid which is called aqueous humor, right? That keeps your eye hydrated and it does not let the lens into dry up, right? Then this is the lens. Now this is actually the lens, just like the lens there in your spectacles in your glasses. This is the lens which has a function of focusing or focusing the light rays, right? This lens is basically hold with some ligaments. These are called suspensory ligament. These fibers are called suspensory ligament. This is there is a muscle body, muscular body, which is called the ciliary muscles, or they are also called as ciliary body or the ciliary muscles. Now there is, as you can see, this is structure. This structure is called the iris. Now when you see from the front side, when let me draw this, that if this is the eye, right, and this is, right, this is the eye, right, and you can see like this way, right. So this colored part of your eye, some have blue, some have gray, some have black, some are brown. So this colored part of the eye, this is called iris, right, and this is the iris, right. Now between now at the center of this color part there is a black structure that we can see. Actually it's not the structure, this is something which is a hole, actually the just like a camera hole, na? If you remember once upon a time, if you have seen, because you generation, you do not, you perhaps you might not have seen those cameras which used to have films in them, but yes, you might have seen the digital camera. So they have a lens, exactly, they have a place from which light enters into the camera. So there is a hole inside the eye which we cannot touch and we cannot see, because this is laminated with the conjunctiva, right. The conjunctiva is the layer that basically laminates the whole eye, and it does not let you to enter anything inside in your eye, right. So there is a hole through which light enters in your eye and goes to the backside of your eye where the receptor cells are found, right. Here the receptor cells are found. So this part is empty, this is a hole. So this whole part is actually called pupil. Pupil is not a structure, it's not a structure, it's nothing, it's just a hole. So this hole is called pupil, and its size basically increases and decreases due to the contraction and relaxation of the muscles in the iris. Iris is a muscular body, right, because it has muscles in it, but this pupil, this is just a hole, right. This is the cornea, this is the aqueous humor. Now aqueous humor is not there in your syllabus. The structures which are there in your syllabus, I am underlining them, rather I am let me highlight them. Oh, highlighter is too thick. Wait. Iris, cornea, pupil, lens, suspensory ligaments, ciliary muscles, they are there. Then optic nerve is also there, fovea, right? Sclera is not there, but I will let you know that what is sclera. Then ciliary body, you could say that. Okay? And this blind spot, right? Retina. Okay. So these highlighted parts are there in your syllabus, and you have to remember their names, not only remember their names, but also their function, right? Okay, behind this lens part, there is a layer. There are the layers of different layers. The outermost layer, which is facing to the lens, this is the blue layer, this is called retina. Now this retina is extremely important, because this retina contains the receptor cells which are responsible for sensing the light. So if the receptor cells which are present in the retina, they are damaged, or the retina itself, the layer is damaged or detached, right, detached from this, the person becomes blind, they cannot see, right. So there, this layer is very important in the viewing of something. If you are able to see, just because you have retina, if you are not able to see, it means, I mean, even some people who are born with damaged retina, or their receptor cells are not working, they are blind by birth. But some people become blind uh, due to any accident. Sometime retina detaches, so that's why they are unable to see, because retina contains those receptor cells, na? So if there is no receptor cells, there will be no light sense. There is nothing inside your eye that can sense light except those receptor cells, right. And we will be discussing that there are two types of receptor cells. ठीक है. Now the white part of your eye, now this part is called sclera. The white part in your eye is called sclera, right? As you can see the layer here. Now there is an optic nerve. Now nerve means that the neurons are there and they takes the message from the receptors and forward this message to the brain and then brings back the message to the retina, right? And then you are able to see something, right? Okay, at this part of at this place, optic nerve, this, there are no receptor cells. There are no receptor cells found on this part. This part is called blind spot. Okay, and it is also called as yellow spot as well. Blind spot or yellow spot, it is called there. Why it is called blind spot? Blind means you cannot see. You cannot see means there are no receptors, so there are no receptors at this place. Now at this place you can see, let me magnify this part. You can see a little depression here in the retina. This depression place is called fovea. Now fovea is a place where actually there is a focus of the light. The light is actually focused on this point, and this fovea is full of receptor cells. The receptor cells are abundant here at this fovea, right? So fovea is very important part of your eye, where the receptor cells are extremely abundant, right? And at this part, blind spot or the yellow spot, there are no receptor cells. Now there is a distribution of the receptor cells as well. Let me discuss that what, which two types. Okay, first let me discuss that what are the functions of those part of the eye that we have just discussed, so that you may understand uh, that why they are important and what do they do. The first thing that we will be discussing is the cornea, right? Cornea is a transparent curved layer at the front of the eye, right? And its basically function is to refract the light, right? So whenever the light is basically interacts with your eye, it is coming from different many directions. Now it's basically its function, it's to refract it. Now how it refracts, basically, for example, if your, this is, oh no, I should not draw like this. Let me, for example, if the light is coming like this, right, in this direction, these are the light rays that are coming, right? So the cornea basically refract them in towards the lens, right? And then lens further focus them or refract them at fovea, right? Further focus these lights at this point, this fovea point. So both function, the cornea also reflects the light and lens also reflects the light. Both have the same function. This lens does the fine focusing and cornea does the first initial focusing, that you could say that, right? Iris, now iris, as I mentioned you, that iris is a muscular part of your body. It is consist of the two types of muscles which are antagonistic muscles, and iris is basically responsible for the change in size of that hole which is called pupil, right? So it basically, if you observe very closely, that the size of that hole, that black part which I have drawn, this part, okay, this black part which appears like a hole here, right? This size increases and decreases due to the difference in the intensity of light. So due to the intensity of the light, this pupil size increases and decreases, and this size is controlled by the contraction and relaxation of the muscles which are present in iris. So the function of iris is to control the size of the pupil, right? To increase or decrease during due to the intensity, high intensity, the size decreases of the pupil size decreases, and in the low light intensity, the size increases. Now the lens are transparent convex. Now we have a convex lens, right? In our eye, it is not concave. And flexible jelly like structure that refracts like to focus it onto the retina. Further, fine focusing is done by lens. The retina, a light sensitive layer made up of rods which detect light. Okay, now as I mentioned you that there are two types of light detecting cells which are called photoreceptor cells, right? We will be discussing in the next class, as only 2 minutes are left in ending the class, so let me finish up with the functions. So the optic nerve is basically that nerve which transmit the electrical impulse from the retina to the brain and from brain to the retina. Now the ciliary muscles and suspensory ligaments, which you can see here. These are the ciliary muscles and suspensory ligaments. They are basically responsible for making the size of the lens either either elongated or bulging, right? This is what we are going to discuss in accommodation of eye, how these two structures help the lens to accommodate when we have to see near or far, right? They are linked. Ciliary muscles, they contract and relax, and they basically control the shape of the lens. Now fovea is that central part of the retina where cells are more concentrated and they detect colored light. So actually the receptor cells, I haven't discussed the rods and cones today because this is what we are going to discuss tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. So with this, today I'm ending the class, and today we have done actually the synaptic junction. We have discussed the events at the synapses, and as well as the structure of the eye and its function. So you need to remember their names and their functions, and inshallah ta'ala we will be discussing how, which are the two different types of photoreceptor cells are found and where they are found, and as well as some of the reflex like pupil reflex we will be discussing tomorrow in the next class on Friday, inshallah. And then we will be discussing eye accommodation and that. So with this, I am ending the class. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.